in New Orleans tonight. After the giant storm came the rising waters. Over 80% of the city is flooded.
Cars are bumper to bumper. More than 32,000 evacuated so far. In a fire moving so fast, it doubled in size overnight.
It is chaos along the Jersey Shore. The superstorm battering the barrier island.
More than half of the country experienced moderate to exceptional drought conditions at the end of July. That's up almost 7% from the month before.
But look at the numbers from just today. Little Rock, Arkansas, a high today of 101. Tulsa, 105. Salt Lake City, 103. And in Phoenix, Arizona, a new record today of 114.
So pretty much for the entirety of human development on this planet, we had about 280 parts per million in the atmosphere. And what are parts per million? It's basically a measure of carbon in this situation. So 280 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere is the threshold at which humans really learn to live on this planet. Then around the Industrial Revolution, around 1880, 1890s, humans started burning fossil fuels, which consist of, oil, coal, natural gas. They're hydrocarbons, are carbon-based fuels that we've really used to build the majority of our infrastructure around the world in our developed economies. And when they did, the amount of carbon in the atmosphere crested towards higher and higher numbers, away from 280 parts per million, until we arrive today and we have around 392 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere. In order to keep conditions on our planet relevant to those that humans developed under, we need to keep carbon at around 350 parts per million.
If we continue burning business as usual, we do not change from our current trajectory of economic growth and increased fossil fuels, we're looking at closer to 900 parts per million by the end of the century. For comparison, the last time we were above 400 parts per million was the Eocene era, about 36 million years ago. At that point, there were crocodiles in the Arctic, palm trees in Wyoming, and sea levels were about 30 meters higher in the Arctic.
They are determined to perpetuate their companies in their present form for as long as they possibly can. When I talk about the fossil fuel companies, I mean especially the giant oil and gas companies. ExxonMobil, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, BP, Royal Dutch Shell, Total, the French company, and a number of others. The only way to stop it is going to be from outside pressure. This is going to have to come from us. It's going to have to come from people putting pressure on governments to stop them through carbon taxes, cap and trade, whatever kind of legislation is necessary, and by getting institutions like these to divest from these companies.
To give you a little bit about what divestment is, it's the opposite of investment. It's removing financial investment from companies that are socially or morally unethical. How many of you are representatives of an institution that has $500 million or more in the stock market? All right, I'm seeing some hands here. People understand what I'm saying. The fact is that we all do. We are representatives of UMass Amherst, who has an endowment of $500 million.
So an endowment is a pool of money that's formed from alumni donations. So alumni donate to a university as they're able, if they want to, and that money is then pooled into what's called an endowment fund, and the school takes that money and invests it into the market, and the returns on investment then go into the campus's operating budget.
So divestment isn't the answer to climate change. It's really just the first step in a series of initiatives that need to happen.
If a lot of schools divest, it's not really going to harm the fossil fuel companies, banks, because they have so much money with them. But it really shows that people are behind the movement and that people are stepping up to make change, and then that momentum can really carry on to other different types of resistance and really spiral into bigger movements.
You know, divestment is a tactic and our goal is justice.
It's morally wrong that companies profit from something that's destroying the planet and ultimately taking lives. According to Dara International, 400,000 people die a year because of climate change. That is a moral problem, and we need to face it. And divestment is the right tactic. It's worked in the past with apartheid, South Africa. It's worked with Sudan. And it's going to work with the environmental movement.
That's why I'm involved. I don't know what I want to do in my future, but I know I would like to have a future, and that necessitates being a part of this movement and changing our course.
We recognize that this movement is a social justice movement, and that the people who are impacted the most by the fossil fuel industry are the ones that are the most marginalized and the most disenfranchised, and the ones that have the least political power in the system. And we're seeking to change that power dynamic.
Whether it be fashion design or building houses or playing soccer, none of that's going to be around if we don't have a world for it to happen on.
UMass should divest to help educate people about the urgency of climate change.
We as students who give money to go to our university and really trust in those folks that are educating us to help us not only be agents of a better future, but to invest in a better future, have a right to take action and demand that our university endowment is not invested in these horrible practices that give us a very slim chance at a sustainable future.
I have a goal. I have something tangible I'm working towards.
It's so ingrained in our society, and I want to be part of the group that is creating a paradigm shift.
So, for those who are more concerned about other things, maybe money, scientists conveniently tell us how long we have until we create a planet on which money no longer matters.
I am not an expert. I am not a climate scientist or a politician. I am not a professor or organizer. I cannot claim to reign supreme at anything. But I can claim a conscience, and I can articulate a feeling that what I am fighting for is morally correct and is the right thing to do. Yeah.
So our petition basically says that we want to freeze all current investments in fossil fuel industries and stop investing in fossil fuel industries in the future. And we want this completed in the next 5 years.